कुछ वर्ड नोट डाउन करेंगे। लोकेलिटी और अदर or the other, they are not, they have, by all the, at a moment, in a position, I am asking, at length, in some cases, indirect taxes, taxpayers, standard of living, cost of living. In this context, small farmer, income tax, worked out much better in regard to so that to see that program abolished, installment, institution, internal, sugar. लोकेलिटी के लिए आप या तो आप पूरा बनाते हो या एल में के लगाते हो डिसजॉइंट करके। और अदर, और की डबलिंग कर देते हैं अदर के लिए, या आप और अदर नॉर्मल वे में बना सकते हो जैसे आप बनाते हो अदर को। और द अदर, there is not, they are not, और there is not, they have, they में have लगाएंगे या they की ही डबलिंग कर देते हैं they have के लिए। by all the, by all का ग्राम लोगे इसमें दा का टिक लगा दो, by all the। अगर by और all the अलग अलग प्रोनाउंस करता है, जैसे by और फिर बोलता है all the, तो तब तक आप आगे चले जाते हो। तो ये नहीं कि आप उसका वेट करेंगे। अगर बाई ऑल एक साथ बोला, बीएल बनाया, दा का टिक लगा दिया, बाई ऑल दा, बाई ऑल दा, बाई ऑल दा। डिपेंड करता है डिक्टेटर कैसे प्रोनाउंस कर रहा है, उसके हिसाब से आप अपनी आपको लेके चलेंगे। एट ए मोमेंट, या फिर आप क्या करते हो, केसी में एमएन से काट देते हो मोमेंट के लिए, एट ए मोमेंट। इन ए पोजिशन, ये भी यूज किया जाता है कई बार। बेटर ये है, आई एम आस्किंग, पूरी आउटलाइन है, आपने ये भी देखी होगी, आपने इसको आस्किंग को इसका शक्ल बना के आगे बनाते हैं। एट लेंथ, एट को एल से काट देते हैं एट लेंथ के लिए। इन सम केसेस, इन सम केसेस, इनडायरेक्ट टैक्सेस, लार्ज सर्कल लगाते हैं, के में लार्ज सर्कल। टैक्स पेयर्स, पी से काट देते हैं, कॉन्ट्रैक्शन है। स्टैंडर्ड ऑफ लिविंग, एल से काट देंगे। कॉस्ट ऑफ लिविंग, in this context, या फिर आप पूरा ही बना सकते हो। स्मॉल फार्मर, इनकम टैक्स, या ऐसे बना सकते हो पूरा। वर्कड आउट, हाफ साइज और आउट लगा देंगे। मच बिफोर, मच बेटर, मच बिफोर नहीं आएगा, मच बेटर ही आएगा। इन रिगार्ड टू, सो दैट, और नहीं क्लियर होता तो सो बना के आगे दैट लगा दो। टू से दैट, टू सी दैट, टू सी दैट। सॉरी, ये शॉर्ट फॉर्म है, यहाँ पे दो एक साथ बनेगा। टू सी दैट का सी का शक्ल दैट लगाएंगे। जिसे आपने ये पढ़ा है टू से दैट, ऐसे ही हो जाएगा टू सी दैट, बस यहाँ डॉट लगा देना, सी का डॉट हो जाएगा। प्रॉब्लम, PRB और M, प्रोग्राम। एबोलिश्ड, या फिर आप एबोलिश में इश और डी बना सकते हो। इंस्टॉलमेंट, N S का सर्कल, T छोड़ दो, इंस्टॉल और मेंट लगा दो। इंस्टीट्यूशन, इंटरनल, N हाफ, R और NL, या फिर डबलिंग कर सकते हो इंटरनल के लिए, इंटर बना के NL लगा दो। शुगर, आपने केसी में आउटलाइन देखी है, एक्चुअल आउटलाइन शुगर की वैसे ही होती है। जो भी आप यूज करते हो वो यूज कर सकते हो शुगर के लिए। लिखो, वर्ड लिखोगे आप। लोकलिटी और अदर, they are not, they have, by all the, at a moment, in a position, I am asking, at length, in some cases, indirect taxes, taxpayers, standard of living, cost of living. In this context, small farmer, income tax, worked out much better, in regard to, so that, to say that, to see that, problem, program, abolished, installment, institution, internal, sugar। टेस्ट लिखेंगे आप, जो आपको मिल जाएगा SSC C&D ग्रेड टेस्ट 50 YouTube @100, और नेक्स्ट जो 80 बोलूँगा 80। आप इसके बाद में कल से इसमें ना बैक जाके ठीक नहीं कर पाएंगे। ये 50 सेट हो गए, इसमें आप जो है पीछे जाके ठीक कर सकते हो, करेक्शंस कर सकते हो, लेकिन कल से जो मैं अपलोडिंग करूंगा इसके अंदर, उसके अंदर आप बैक पीछे जाके कंटेंट को ठीक नहीं कर पाएंगे। तो अगर आपने इनकी प्रैक्टिस बन गई है तो ठीक है, नहीं बनी तो वही रखना है। पहले अपना जो कंटेंट है वो नो कोमा, फिर विद कोमा, फिर डिक्टेशन, नो कोमा, विद कोमा, फिर डिक्टेशन में सीन के बाद अनसीन, और अनसीन के बाद में ये लेवल के बाद में नेक्स्ट लेवल आता है विदाउट गोइंग बैक साइड। आप पीछे नहीं जाएंगे, आप पीछे नहीं जा पाएंगे, जाएंगे तो उसमें ठीक नहीं कर पाएंगे। अगर आपका ये लेवल अचीव हो जाता है तो आप एकदम बेस्ट लेवल पे हो, जो कंटेंट आप टाइप कर रहे हो उसमें आप पीछे जाकर करेक्शन नहीं कर रहे, बस वन टाइम टाइप में ही आप उसको कवर कर ले रहे हो। 50 सेट हो गए हैं लगभग ये, जो विद कोमा के साथ में नेविगेशन की के साथ में, जिसमें आप पीछे जाकर करेक्शंस कर सकते हो। लेकिन अगर आप इसमें अब जो कंटेंट मैं अपलोड करना चाह रहा हूँ वो चाह रहा हूँ कि विदाउट करेक्शंस रखा जाए। चलो ठीक है, विद करेक्शन ही चलते हैं अभी कुछ दिन और, देखते हैं एग्जाम की डेट तक देखते हैं, उसके बाद करेंगे अपडेट। लिखो पहले हाई पे लिखो फिर लो पे लिखेंगे। Start it. The credit movement in this country started in 1904 and it had its own difficulties since the last several decades. The main problem regarding cooperative credit has been that it has been untimely and inadequate. In 1904, the Cooperative Societies Act was passed, which was later amended in 1914. Then there were certain committees appointed and they reported about the weaknesses of the credit movement in the country. In 1999, this subject of cooperation was transferred to the states, after which several states passed cooperative acts of their own. Thereafter, in 1929, the Royal Commission made certain inquiries about cooperation and the credit movement and made certain recommendations. Until 1950 or 1951, there was very little improvement in the field of cooperation. In 2001, the Reserve Bank of India appointed the Rural Credit Survey Committee, which brought out its report in 2004. That committee came to the conclusion that only 3% of the credit required by the agriculturists in the country was being met by the cooperatives, and it made certain suggestions. It suggested that there should be an integrated credit structure in the country and said that there should be share participation by the government in the cooperative societies. It suggested that the government should take shares in the cooperative societies so that the cooperative movement can get strength through government participation. The second recommendation made by the Rural Credit Survey Committee was that there should be linking of credit with marketing, processing, consumption, storage, and all other fields of activity, so that credit will develop marketing, consumption, processing, etc. Yet another recommendation was that there should be a training program for the non-officials. The fourth recommendation and the most salient one was that there should be a three-tier structure of credit. There should be cooperative societies at the lower level, then there should be district banks, and then the apex banks, and that all the three should be interlinked. These recommendations were accepted by the Government of India. This report also recommended that in order to implement these suggestions, there should be a National Cooperative Development and Warehousing Board. The Government of India had accepted these suggestions in 2006. According to that act, there came into being a warehousing board which took care of the warehouses in the country, and also the National Development Board, which took care of the development of the cooperatives. It was first thought that the two boards should be worked out under two different acts, but as both the subjects were administratively under one ministry at that time, namely the Ministry of Food and Agriculture, it was thought proper at that stage that the same act should administer the National Development Board and the Warehousing Corporation. Thereafter, a separate department of cooperation was created and attached to the Ministry of Community Development, now called the Ministry of Community Development, Panchayati Raj and Cooperation. And it was decided by the government in 2010 that there should be two separate acts, one for Cooperative Development Board and the other for warehousing. In one of the papers submitted by the Ministry of Food and Agriculture, on the basis of which the presidential order to create the development of cooperation was passed. It was suggested that these two bodies should be administered separately, and that is why we have now come before Parliament with this National Cooperative Development Corporation Bill. The other bill relating to the Warehousing Corporation will come up through the Ministry of Food and Agriculture after the bill is passed. Therefore, sir, the present bill is only an amending bill, and opportunities has been taken to have some minor amendments made in the bill. Firstly, the original act covered only agricultural produce, and agricultural produce had been defined in that act. And now, besides agricultural produce, any notified commodity is also being included. If government wants to include any commodity for which Parliament is competent to legislate, it can notify that commodity and apply the provisions of this measure of that commodity. In that case, we will not have to come to Parliament again and again. Any commodity which is in the concurrent list and for which Parliament can legislate can be notified by government for the application of these provisions. The second amendment is about the functional committees. In the present act, there is no provision for functional committees. Now, this corporation has to deal with credit, processing, marketing, consumers, and all these types of items in order to boost up the cooperative movement. We found that there was a lacuna, and therefore we have suggested a provision to have functional committees. It is only an enabling provision, and after this bill becomes act, we will have functional committees regarding credit, processing, consumers, etc. Then there was no power of delegation. Before I come to other points, I think it is necessary for me to deal with the substitute motion which has been moved by my honorable friend. Although it is in two parts, really it comes to this, that there is a suggestion that the coal target for the 11th 5-year plan may be revised upwards from the present 97 million tons. He said that this should be raised to 120 million tons and necessary transport arrangements should be made. If in our country our resources were such that we could find ourselves in an easy position, obviously we should always plan in a little easy manner our targets for coal production, transport, power and some other basic things. But we have to take a realistic view. If our overall resources are limited, financial and the like, we have to make optimum use of whatever those resources are, and we have to fit in various competing priorities within the overall resources. This is a matter which was discussed at great length when we were discussing some days ago our 11th 5-year plan. The 11th 5-year plan has now been approved by Parliament after a very lengthy and a detailed discussion in both houses of Parliament. 1040 के आसपास वर्ड है, 100 की स्पीड है, 80 पे लिखेंगे. Ready? Get started. Sir, the Press Council Second Amendment Bill 2004 was introduced by me in the last session as I submitted in my statement which I laid on the table of the House. I requested the House to consider the Second Amendment because an ordinance had to be issued since the life of the Council was expiring. Since the life of the present Council was expiring, we had to issue the ordinance. At this stage, I do not think I have much to say because it is a very simple bill. It is only trying to extend the life of the Press Council till the end of the year. If we are able to finalize the formation of the Press Council earlier, then of course the present term would expire earlier. You will recall I had said in the course of the last debate that a committee of members of Parliament has been working for the drafting of the second bill, which is likely to come up before the end of this session. If time is made available, I will make every effort to bring it before this session itself. The committee has been sitting and they have been able to come to their conclusions more or less. It is now in the drafting stage and I hope it will be possible for me to bring the bill before the House soon. I would now not like to go into the merits and demerits of the new bill at this stage. I would only say that it is a very simple bill extending the life of the present Council. I hope the House will approve of this at an early date so that I can go to the other House before the budget debate is taken up. Mr. Deputy Chairman, I welcome the Minister's statement that before this session ends, the government would be in a position to bring the comprehensive Press Council Amendment Bill before this House for consideration, because that would be the proper occasion for discussing the working of the Press Council in depth. He said that this particular bill, which seeks to replace the ordinance, is a simple bill. No doubt about it. It is a very simple bill dealing with merely the term of the Press Council and giving life to the Press Council, which would have otherwise expired even today. I do not object to the contents of the bill, but I take a strong exception to the procedure followed by the government in this regard. It has been my general objection that Article 123 of the Constitution, which empowers the President to promulgate ordinances during the recess of Parliament, is a very special power. It is an extraordinary power which has to be exercised with very great caution and care, and only in an emergent situation. Unfortunately, with this government, Article 123 has become a matter of routine. It has been stated in the statement by the Minister explaining why an ordinance was necessary, that because the bill was introduced only on 21st December, there was no time to pass the bill, as the life of the Press Council was due to expire on 31st December. For this reason, there was no option except to take recourse to an ordinance. My submission to the government would be that the government was fully in the know that the term of the Press Council was due to expire on 31st December. This was not something which suddenly came out. Why did not the government take prompt measures in time to bring forth a bill before Parliament extending the term of the Press Council, instead of introducing the bill only towards the fag end of the session of Parliament and then making it a plea for promulgating the ordinance. My point simply is that Article 123 is not intended to remedy the negligence of the government. It is not intended to cover up the lapses of the government. It is intended to be invoked only in extraordinary circumstances when something new crops up which was not or could not be foreseen while the Parliament was in session. Suppose, for instance, between the 21st or 22nd December, when the Parliament session ended, and the 31st December, something had happened which made it absolutely obligatory for the government to have recourse to this ordinance making power, then I could have understood it. But in this case, I would say that this is only another manifestation of the government's habit of taking recourse to ordinances. Rule by ordinance, I hold very strongly, is repugnant to the concept of parliamentary democracy. It denigrates and weakens the efficacy and primacy of the parliamentary institutions. It is on this ground that I oppose the promulgation of such ordinances. The Press Council has been in existence for 9 years now, and it was in 2005 that the Press Council bill was passed. 80 की स्पीड है, 840 के आसपास वर्ड है, और ये आपको SSC C D ग्रेड टेस्ट नंबर 50 URL वही है 3pprogram.steno वाला 18 टाइप करेंगे, उधर बैठेंगे, सीन